and my co-host.
Adam, hello, how's it going?
Oh, so are you talking to me or talking to the audience?
Audience.
The audience. Like,
It's not like they can answer me, but...
It's not like anyone's listening to this anyway. The metaphoric audience of the listeners that doesn't exist. And so, what are we doing today, Adam? Go on, introduce the show. Let's go and do the fucking welcome.
We're going to talk about films. No, we're going to talk about animated films. One of my, I say passions. I like animated films. I like them a lot. I wouldn't really go as far to say passion because I don't know, I'm not... That puts you on a little bit of a too high pedestal because people are going to be like, oh, I bet you know like all the details about how it works. And it's like, no, I just enjoy the film. I enjoy it as a medium. So we're doing an episode on...
Basically like a top 10. A top 10 or so, hopefully...
I thought we were going to talk about other stuff, like just animated, generally.
If you let me fucking finish, Adam. I didn't say it. And also... Jesus, this fucking guy. And also, basically, animation as a whole, and discuss its uses, when to use it, why it's good, and maybe if there's any flaws with it.
The state of
animation in general. We touched about it a bit, and I made a video about it as well.
Yeah, we did a little bit, but this is the whole shebang.
The whole shebang.
Oh, we really should plan these things out beforehand.
We probably should. I've made a list of honourable mentions.
Yeah.
I should probably sort of introduce the list a bit. With my list, it was sort of like, I know I don't want to step on a lot of Adam's choices because I had a choice this week of I could watch these 3 other animated films, but I was pretty sure
They're probably on my list anyway.
Yeah, so I thought I'd have a bit more of a plebby list than Adam, a bit more of a...
No, I don't think that's true.
Okay.
I had a glance at... He's not looked at my list at all. I had a slight glance at his... Yeah.
Fucking Cheeto.
What
is this?
It's not like we're winning anything. I had a slight little glance. I was like, oh, it's a cool list. A lot of things I've not actually seen on there.
And on Adam's list, there was some things that no one's ever fucking seen.
There's a film that I don't think anyone knows about, but it's a really good film. And I was so surprised how good it was, considering how like no one cares about it.
And that's kind of insightful content you expect from
Should we do that at the end though? Because I think the lists are best kept more towards the end.
So how would you like to start then?
Just kind of I feel general little bit of a chat about animation.
Because I get the impression, also because you told me beforehand, that you've really prepared for this podcast. So I feel like you're going to be more...
that's put it on too much of a bar, Alex.
Well, you've done more than me. I just made a list.
Well, no, I just had some self-reflection thoughts. I watched... How many films did you kind of watch preparing for this?
3.
I watched 7.
Fucking hell.
I think 7.
Some people got a job, Adam. Jeez.
Yeah, some people actually have stuff to do with their life. So I to be fair, I watched them all in the evening. So I could have been working.
I'm a tired working man in the evening. I haven't got time for that.
Yeah, you work 2 mornings a week.
I got a family to support.
Oh god. No. So I was kind of thinking like just starting it by like. Oh no! Sorry, I've got notes. I'm just opening my notes because fucking hell, what am I going to say?
Enjoy the intense.
What do you think about Pixar at the moment? Because I think that's an interesting topic.
Okay, here we go. Well, here's the thing about Pixar. I'm going to say for most Disney companies in general, like your Pirates movies and your Marvel movies and your Star Wars movies, they're not bad.
No.
That's the thing. As much as you might be like, oh, fucking Star Wars isn't very good, or I hate that show, or whatever, I wouldn't ever consider any movies they've made bad. They're just like, they're a product at this point.
Yeah.
And like, I felt very much that way about Coco, because when Coco came out, it was just so much publicity, so much like, oh, it's the best movie, it's so revolutionary, and I watched it, and it was sort of the most, it was just lazy, it's the best way to describe it. It's kind of, they could have had, have you seen Coco yet?
I actually haven't, and the reason why is I felt that so much after Inside Out, which I know is a little bit of a controversial opinion. I fucking...
Compared to Inside Out, Coco is just like...
Well, maybe it is.
Inside Out is pretty amazing compared to Inside Out.
Really? Inside Out is amazing compared to Inside Out. I really should pick you up on tiny things with your speaking, because I cannot speak. I've been listening back
to these fucking
podcasts, and oh my god, I cannot speak. Yeah, we'll keep this in, whatever. They need to know why it's
the truth.
Shit. Literally, I'll just start a sentence with no idea how it's going to end. I'll pause between sentences like I just did for no real reason. Fucking hell. I thought I was an alright speaker before listening to myself back. I sound like a drunken moron, but with a little bit of a posh accent.
I feel like this should be a segment from... Do you have those documentaries like, this week I'm behind the music, this week I'm behind the podcast, things are going well. until they worked.
God. Oh,
So Pixar.
shitty. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, back to the actual topic.
And so yeah, all Pixar movies, they all look really beautiful. The animation is
Except
on
The Good
point.
Dinosaur, which is fucking terrible.
I didn't see it, it's just boring.
I didn't.
Animation is on
It was
point.
so awful.
Music is on point.
Yeah.
It's all great. Story, fucking atrocious.
I wouldn't even go that far.
Not even atrocious, it's just so generic. It's the lowest. It's the what's the word? Lowest common denominator.
Yeah,
That kind of. It's,
yeah.
you know, there's no actual depth put into the writing of it,
Yeah.
which is a big problem. And apart from Inside Out, which I thought had some the emotion parts of Inside Out, when you know the memories of when you're a child, it's okay.
Yeah.
That can be a bad memory. That's okay. It's okay to cry. That kind of thing. That was actually had some thought put into that bit alone. You might not like the rest of the movie, but that bit had some thought into it.
I would almost completely disagree, just because one thing that annoys me about the emotional elements of Pixar is how lazy it is. It's like, okay, oh, what are people sad about? Oh yeah, people move. Oh, they feel sad about moving, and it's like, it's just so, like, they know, like, whatever context that's in, it's gonna make people, it's gonna draw in the emotional appeal that Pixar organically had in its older films. Like, Toy Story up to 3 had this really kind of organic feeling to it about this, like, you know, people growing up, growing away from their toys, and I don't know, it just doesn't, I just felt Inside Out didn't capture that. It felt really shallow. Like, and the best thing to accent that point is the character, what the fuck was that stupid elephant thing?
Oh,
The Imaginary Friend.
Jim Jam, Flim Flam.
Flim Flams, Jimmy Jam.
Jimmy Jams.
Zim Zam, can't flim flam him. I don't know. Oh god, it was literally the second that character walked on screen, I was like, that character's gonna die in an emotional scene. And I'm not just saying that as like sitting there like, I wanted to like this film, but the more I watched it, I was like, oh my god, this is fucking shit. No, and okay, like overall, I would say okay, it was an okay film. But I think just because I do really appreciate Pixar's older films, they all had this kind of edge to them that, you know, other things didn't. And it's funny because, you know, back when Pixar was good, like, Dreamworks was a shit company. Like, you could just say shit, it just copied other ideas. I genuinely think Dreamworks is a better company at the moment, as far as creativity.
True. That's not even say Dreamworks was shit. They had a few, like, the Prince of Egypt movie, which is pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
Sinbad's pretty good.
Yeah, no, post 2D Pixar.
3D Pixar.
Sorry.
3D Dreamworks. 3D Dreamworks.
Yeah, 3D Dreamworks in its beginning was just a... They
were just sort of copying...
Yeah, they would literally...
but, like, Ants is not a bad movie.
No, it's not a terrible movie, but they would, like... I think they literally had, like, plants in... I'm not joking. Like, in Pixar, where they would
like
kind
spies.
of... They would hear an idea, oh, this thing's being produced, and then they would, like, run back to DreamWorks and be like, okay, they're making a film about ants. Quickly, rush it out. And it's like, that's so shady. But it was kind of post, like... what film? How to Train Your Dragon was, like, a masterful film. I genuinely... I've watched it recently, and I was just like, wow. And the thing is, that plays on, like... arguably a similar kind of thing that I'm saying about Inside Out. Like, oh, the kid has this animal that he has to hide from his parents, and oh, he's so, you know, he's an outcast. And it's like, you could argue that, oh, well, that's kind of as manipulative, but it's felt so organic, and the emotions, like, with Inside Out, it felt like they were trying, like, really hard to make you feel stuff. But it didn't earn it. Like, there was, like, at the end of the film... The whole end of the film is like she gets on this bus and it's like, oh god, we've got to get these balls back, or the emotion balls, I think. Memory balls or whatever, back to the thing, and oh, we've got to fix everything, and oh, you know, sadness is going to fix everything. It's not like that was set up right at the start of the film and was the most predictable fucking thing in the world. Oh, you know, she's going to save everything, but we've got to do it in time. It's like, why? Like, there's no reason.
It is just forced intention.
Yeah, it was like, oh, they're nearly out of the city. It's like, well, yeah, she'll go another stop and then call her parents. She's not retarded. It's like, there's nothing... I don't know. I have a problem with a lot of films that have quite a low bar emotional feel, and that doesn't really make much sense on its own. But like, that's okay. A kid movie.
But why does How to Train Your Dragon have a higher?
Because there were kind of
bar?
stakes. Like, there's a kind of.
Well, I guess it's a stake in the sense of a disaster will happen.
Well, no, because they literally are killing these dragons, and the dragons are killing them. There's like this actual kind of tension there, and you can. And the great thing about that film is, a really shitty film would have made you just hate the dad. But the dad is completely reasonable throughout the film. They emote him, like he does care about his son, but he just doesn't really connect with him. Like there are ways that film could have been done, where it's like, oh, the dad just is a dick to him, is horrible to him for no reason. Oh, he's just an idiot. And then at the end he's like, oh, well, actually, son, you proved me wrong. He does that, but he's completely understandable. You kind of hate Hiccup at the start of the film, because he's a prick. He's an obnoxious little arsehole, and he grows, but the parent grows. It's not as confrontational, it's not as easy.
I need to watch this movie again.
I really think it's a fantastic film.
Because I agree to a certain extent, but at the same time, there is that moment when, like, Hiccup's like, oh, Dad, you gotta listen to me, Dad. Hiccup, is it Hiccup? What's the dragon called? Truth washing out the enemy. He's like, shut the fuck up, son, I'm gonna kill
but at that point, that's completely reasonable, because what happened right before that scene was Hiccup is like, okay, I'm gonna prove to him this dragon's not gonna kill me. He goes into the arena, fucks up completely, the dragon runs after him, tries to kill him, completely reinforces what the village is already thinking. So it's like, you can understand why it's like, well, we have this problem with dragons, and they kind of reinforce that actually the dragons have kind of fucking, caused the deaths of these things. Like, there's this scene, it's not a great scene in isolation, it's probably one of the worst select scenes in the film, but it serves its function, is when, what's the girl called?
Oh, Buttercup?
Astrid. I think it's Astrid?
Yes, it is Astrid, yeah. Now you've said it, it will kind of... It's Astrid, yeah. Yeah,
I think I might be wrong, but okay, let's just call her Astrid. She comes up to him and goes like, what the fuck are you doing? Is this a joke to you? Like, our parents are like fighting these things non-stop, and you're sitting here making jokes about it. Like, fuck you, basically. And you're like, she's completely justified. All the characters are completely justified in this film. And it's like, they could have been lazy with that. They could have made it so like Hiccup's this misunderstood genius, and he kind of is, but he's kind of a cunt as well. At the same time, like he's annoying. Like you're like, oh, you are such an annoying prick. And so I think it just captured that so perfectly, and there was genuine loving tension in the relationships, which I don't know, like the parents were massive assholes in Inside Out. Yeah. The dad was, and it was like there was no real justification. Like a dad would know that their daughter would be unhappy about moving, and he was just a dick. But even funny I say that, because the scene prior to him being a dick is actually my favourite scene in the whole film, and it is the best scene. It is a fantastic scene, and it's like if the rest of the film had captured what this scene did, it's the scene where they're at the dinner table, and it was actually the trailer for the film, the extended trailer or clip that they were using as a trailer for the film, which again annoys me because this feels manipulative. So there's that scene where they're sat there at the table and you see all their emotions. You see the dad's emotions conflicting with the emotions that the mum has, the mum's emotions saying stuff, you have the daughter's emotions saying stuff, and I think at that point joy and sadness are off on their little journey, so the other emotions are trying to scramble to get everything, and the interplay is so good, and the comedy is so fantastic in that scene. It's like that made me so hyped for the film. I was like, wow, this film could be incredible. And then none of the film is like that except that one scene, which almost makes me think that they knew the rest of the film was nowhere near as
polished or as creative as that one scene, yeah.
But they used that in their marketing, and it really frustrated me. And I think I wouldn't be as harsh on the film if that wasn't the case, if they didn't really highlight that scene, because I would just go like, oh, it wasn't that
also
good.
Pixar hadn't had such a good pedigree beforehand.
Oh yeah, and yeah, if it was just if it was DreamWorks pumping that out, I'll probably be a bit more forgiving, because I don't know, because I would honestly say most of Inside Out is just Toy Story. the first film.
I guess it's like two people who sort of are conflicting, both, you know, are on an adventure to get back to their owner or person. Yeah, I guess it is. I guess, you know, it's the same with like how Toy Story 3 is just a complete rip-off of
Toy Story 2.
1 and 2, yeah. Even though I do like Toy Story 3.
I think it's okay. Like, the end scene of Toy Story 3 kind of... I'm okay with a series having 3 films and 1 not being as good, but it... Like, on a meta level almost, I know I said that so much in that stupid clip that you edited and made me look like an idiot.
I didn't make you look an idiot. You made yourself look an idiot. I just gave you the platform to make yourself look like an idiot.
No, like, if... in isolation, Toy Story 3, I don't think's brilliant. It's okay, it just treads on the same shit. But because it has that end scene, it ties the trilogy together well.
The emotional impact of it feels earned.
Yeah.
You've been with these characters for like 50
because the other 2
years.
films earn it. Yeah. Really.
Yeah, I guess so. That's it's kind of how I feel about sort of X-Men 3. Kind of unrelated, but the deaths in that movie work even better because
because of previous. And some people are really like, oh, you can only judge a film in isolation. It's like, oh, that's bullshit. Mm-hmm. That's crap. True. Like I'm judging Inside Out by its marketing as well. Like, you know, is that really fair? It's like, well, it has impacted my view on the film, and it's like in its totality, it has marred my view on it. It's like, well, okay, you could argue that I'm not some fucking objective critic, but no critic is objective. No critic is more objective than another. So would you argue that? So I'm going to guess when Toy Story 4 comes out like next year, it's going to be terrible. And it'll mar the your view of Toy Story would even be lower than it is now. Oh yeah, because Toy Story 4 was a great ending. Because your meta narrative has you know should have ended in Toy Story 3, but now you continue that. The narrative throughout the first 3 films is complete. Yeah, and I felt that there's an arc to everything. Yeah, and I felt that, funnily enough, I gushed over fucking Kung Fu Panda 2 in like the last fucking podcast. But I felt that about 3 as well. 3 actually made 2 but it retrospectively made it a little bit worse. Because the emotional pull of the second one is the fact that he's lost this family and has to kind of come to terms with that actually his adopted father is his father. You know, and that... It was kind of like how you felt about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Is it? It's kind of the same sort of emotional beat, where Peter at the end of Guardians has to admit Yondu's his father. Yeah. It's his adopted father. Sort of similar to... Yeah, but I would say with this one it's more about him letting go of the past because they're all dead. But then in the third one, and actually at the end of the second one, but because it's just little almost after credit scene even, like it doesn't matter, they show that his dad's alive. And admittedly they didn't go full back on it. It's like, oh, your mum's right here, she's alive. But they didn't need to retread that ground. And it's like, I just ignore 3 because it annoys me that it lessens the emotional punch of 2. Because he then finds his dad. And it's like, well, the point was that he'd come to terms with the life he actually has now, rather than having to retread that whole ground of, you know, coming to terms with who is actually his father, his biological one, or the person that raised him. It's like, well, you kind of answered that in the last film. Yeah. So back to the original question, which was Pixar. The state of Pixar. And so, for me, it literally just boils down to the whole fact of it's so incredibly Disney owned at this point. Yeah. Because when Pixar was first created, the creators, which were, I can't remember their names really. No, I can't remember any of the names. Brad Bird was probably one of them, I'm going to guess. I think so, yeah. We made The Incredibles. Made The Incredibles, yeah, and the Ratatouille and stuff like that. But they set out to make things like 5 or 6 movies. It was Finding Nemo, Monsters Inc., The Incredibles, WALL-E, and effectively everything up to sort of go up to what was Up. No, I think Up was the floating house is definitely one of the ideas. Oh, okay, yeah. But everything up to Up was ideas they had when they first created Pixar back in the 90s. Yeah. So that was where all the sort of their initial creativity and what they wanted to make came in. But now that you have the Disney conglomerate kind of like, well, we need more money from this. We can't just have one, vision, one film. Because visions don't matter really to Disney. That's why all their movies feel the same. The Disney guy, I think the CEO, isn't it? Bob Iger's guy. He literally has a quote where he's like, you know, we're here to make money. And in the process of making money, we may make a really great film, but that is not our goal.
I agree.
Our goal is to make money. And that's a business, man. That's fair enough.
I agree. But at this point, are they almost too big to fail at this point?
No, nothing's ever too big to fail.
Like, okay,
people probably said that about MySpace. And said that about Facebook. And look at the fucking Facebook stock has like crashed,
Star Wars. Or even Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
I guess
things
so.
that are too big to fail.
But Star Wars failed because I'm pretty sure you could get a director with a vision for like a Marvel movie. You didn't have to stick to so much of a formula.
No, but you fire those for making jokes 10 years ago.
Let's not. Let's start animation because
yeah.
Disney. It's owned by Disney at this point. Nothing much you can do.
No.
I feel like, you know, Brad Bird's an amazing director. You know, he did Iron Giant, The Incredibles, Mission Impossible 4. I've heard mixed things in Tomorrowland, but I've heard the directing is not a thing and the scope of it is not a problem with that movie. And to see The Incredibles 2 get such a kind of like middling reaction.
It has a really high IMDb score, but the people that use
every Pixar
IMDb
movie does.
Yeah, they just all have huge scores.
And I'm sure it's a fun movie, but one of the criticisms I've heard about it is that there's no grit towards it. Incredibles 1 is quite a violent movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And
like, I remember
something I really.
The only thing I remember about Bug's Life is that fucking ending. It scarred me as a kid.
I'm not sure I've seen it.
Basically, what happens is the main villain, who's a complete dick, and it's
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah,
it's Kevin Spacey, isn't it?
Yeah, it's torn to shreds and eaten alive by chicks by this bird. And the scene is fucking harrowing. Like, seriously, it's like childhood. You know, there's like YouTubers.
Childhood trauma thing.
It's literally that level. Like, it's the one thing I remember from that film. It's like, but like one of the funny things about Kung Fu Panda 2 is that I think it's a fantastic film. But the screening, like, the kind of audience reaction, even though a lot of people say they really like it, was that it was too dark. And you can tell that they took that on for the third one, and the third one's fucking shit, because it doesn't have any impact to it. It's like, well, you need that darkness. This is what I'm saying about, I hate La La Land. And I hate Inside Out.
What?
Right?
Why do you hate La La Land?
La La Land is fucking dreadful. Because
what the fuck?
It's got lovely cinematography, all the nice shit that the Oscar people
What's
love.
wrong with La La Land?
It's wonderful. The music is fucking shit.
Fuck
I
off,
cannot remember anything. I even have that fucking audition song on my playlist, but I skip it every time now because it's after you've heard it once, it's the most grating shit.
I don't remember the audition song.
I'm sorry, the storyline is vapid nonsense.
Why is it vapid?
It's like, oh no, we live in this lovely apartment and we live in this lovely space, but I don't have the jazz fucking bar that I want. Woe is me.
What's wrong with that?
But it's just, there's no stakes. There's nothing to it. There's no...
You can't pay the bills.
Oh, no, you can't pay the bills on this lovely apartment. There's no struggle. It's like what rich people think struggle is. And I felt that about Inside Out too. Because moving is really hard on a kid. But the way they presented it was so glossed over what you would actually kind of feel. It's like, oh, I miss my friends. And it's like, okay, yeah, these things are sad. But
fuck you, that's
there just isn't that much depth to it. It's like, kids, move on. Get over it.
The ending. The fucking ending.
The ending's great. The ending is really good. I'll give you that. But the rest of the film is so vapid and so like, oh no, it's above first world problems. It's first world problems. It's so, there's nothing that I can latch onto and kind of go, oh well. And I'm not saying people that are rich can't have problems. There are plenty of really good shows and good things about rich people who have issues and have things going on. But the way these are presented, it's like I'm being forced to care about shit that I'm just like, everyone goes through that. Everyone has hard relationships. Everyone gets in love with people that and then they have to split up with. And I understand some people can find it cathartic to kind of see this played out on the big screen, but I just don't. It's just, oh my god, it's so vapid and boring. So the point of these things is to explore complex issues. And funnily enough, I was. This is a question completely moving on. So if you've got anything else to say about Inside Out, Pixar in general, my view on Pixar is basically yours. They've lost their magic. They've lost a lot of the creators. Most of the creators that originally made it great, it's like The Simpsons, really. A lot of the creators that made it great have just left. They're just not there anymore. And it's like, it's but by name alone, is it Pixar?
Well, I think it's more because wasn't one. The main creator of Pixar has been using the whole sort of sexual scandal.
Was it?
Yeah.
What's his face? The one with the what was always wearing the Hawaiian shirt.
I think he was involved in
Got his name.
Yeah, he's involved in all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but,
let's not touch that topic.
That's a different.
I've already
podcast.
done that with Max Landis, and I kind of regret what I said there.
Sorry, no one heard it.
Yeah, no, who cares?
So, is that your final thoughts?
Not really. One of my points is kind of like, I think people have to know when to let go. Like with Pixar, like it really annoys me the memes around Pixar. It's like, oh, Pixar's going to make this great film, and then every two people are upset. And it's like, well, it isn't the same thing anymore. Like The Simpsons as well. Like I always feel like you're a bit like this, but other people that used to love The Simpsons really want it to be good again. It's like it's not the same thing. None of the people that used to work on it, other than a few voice actors, are working on it anymore. And it like voice actors need to be given good scripts. Like they could be as good, the best voice actors in the world, but the people writing the scripts, the people doing the animation even aren't the same. Like the animation style's vastly different and more terrible than it was in the 90s. It's like, you need to know when to let go. And Pixar, I'm at that point where it's like, I don't get excited for their films.
True, I'm more suspicious when you Pixar films.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, like
what are you hiding?
People were so hyped for it, and I was just like, I didn't even bother going and seeing it.
I didn't see it either.
And I'm not saying I could go into it and go, oh, that was incredible. They have got the magic. So I'm not going to be that guy, but I suspect I'm not. But I don't care that I'm not either.
I think I'd kind of like, yeah, it was alright. That's probably what I'm going to feel about it. Why didn't you?
Yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, well, it's going to be fine. Small note in The Simpsons. Simpsons movie 2, baby! And they have actually got the old writers back. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then that might be alright, but I feel as if...
Yeah, I'm not sure, if the writers... what the writers been doing for 20 years as well. But
like, people change. Like, and if you really kind of watch The Simpsons, it really worked in the culture that it was in.
Yeah.
Which was a very sedentary... Well, the 90s was kind of full of this rebellious spirit against a very kind of conservative picture of the American family.
Yeah, I think, because there's a really good video, and basically I think, to sort of completely,
Is it the Eye Patch Wolf one?
Is it what?
Eye Patch Wolf.
Maybe.
Is it that one?
It's called like the Day the Simpsons Died or something like that.
Yeah, it's that one.
But basically, he sort of, one line I basically take from that video is, The Simpsons used to be a satire of pop culture, but it became so popular and so fast and that it now is pop culture.
Yeah.
You can't be something and satirize at the same time. You can't have your cake and eat it.
No.
Which is what the problem The Simpsons finds itself in now.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things, have you seen, well, you have seen it, I'm more talking to the audience, if you want to have a, blow your brains out moment,
I think it's fine.
Watch the fucking Simpsons version of TikTok
by Kesha.
It actually made me want to die. Like, it was so awful, it made me cringe so viscerally that I wanted to curl up into a ball and shoot myself.
I was fine with it.
From my curled up position.
Don't get me wrong, it wasn't good. I was like, yeah, whatever. I just wasn't surprised that they did it. I was like,
but then that's the problem with me.
It's Stockholm syndrome for me.
I actually haven't let go. And this is an interesting thing about my view of animation. I think I have a somewhat different view about a lot of the things our generation grew up with, because I actually was a miserable twat as a kid. Seriously.
He was.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. I was like, Adam, you seen Incredibles? Fucking watch this kid shit.
Yeah, I would not watch animated films. I didn't watch animated films as a kid. I wouldn't watch them. I wouldn't watch kids shows. I was the most miserable child. I was like, no, I'm going to be an adult. And that was and then what film was it that kind of... I think it was
back.
Yeah, kind of. I think I was watching Monsters Inc. one time actually, and I was like, "Oh, this is all right. Why was I such a dick?" So I kind of, and the same with the Simpsons. I didn't really. You really grew up.
I've been watching The Simpsons on Channel 4 at 6 p.m. every fucking day. For
I never
20
consistently
years.
watched it as a kid. I just never watched it. So I watched relatively recently. I watched the first 10 seasons.
Yeah. Which I would argue, fantastic. I'd argue probably the best television. Consistently.
I think we should do an episode maybe next episode do an episode of just television, because we talk about films and television, but it'd be interesting just to do an episode on television as a whole, what shows we've watched and stuff. Yeah, we should probably talk about this after the podcast.
Probably, but yeah. Let's get to your next question. They had on your list.
Well. But I was just going to bring a point there. I haven't let go of The Simpsons.
Oh,
I need
yeah.
to, because that viscerally made me cringe. Not because it was like that bad. It was terrible. And if any other show did it, it would be cringe. But
I think for me,
because I care so much about this, I didn't really see the degradation. I watched 10 incredible seasons of a show,
then the worst.
then turned the episode on to a fucking episode about a whale and Lisa saving a whale, and it made me want to die.
I think after
It was so
seen
terrible.
that Lady Gaga episode and seeing how far
Yeah.
they've declined. At this point, the Kesha thing is not all that bad in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And so, but I still love The Simpsons, and I'll still watch old episodes very often. And every time, like, if someone says there's a really new episode of The Simpsons, I'm there, I'm watching it, because then I can go, there's a little bit,
There's something left.
there's some balls
There's
left
some
in The
magic.
Simpsons, sort of
Yeah.
hanging off the end
It's
of it.
unbelievably misogynistic of you. Why can it be a vagina? I'm joking.
Vaginas don't hang.
No.
Jesus.
They've got, what's it called? Roast beef? What?
beef
What?
cut.
Beef cut. I'm sorry.
Should put that in the title, animation beef cut.
I think we might get flagged for sexual content for that.
Maybe we got away with dildo suits, so
Did we?
We
got
did.
like 40 viewers. I think no one's seen it.
40.
No one-
We didn't get 40
Did we
viewers.
not?
Fuck
Oh,
off, we didn't get
fuck.
40
That was our
viewers.
first episode's got
We've
46
never got
views.
40
No, our
viewers.
first episode got 46 views. Again, something we should probably discuss off the podcast.
I had a dream, you know.
Oh
I-
my
I had a dream.
God.
like, but it's kind of like I was just going through analytics on YouTube, and I was like, I looked turned to our channel, I was like, oh, we've got 6,000 subscribers. It was just 6,000. It wasn't even impressive. And I went, we've done well, Adam. We've got 6,000. And I woke up so happy.
I
and was
like how in your own dream, I'll go, what we've reached isn't impressive.
hey, if I could get 100 subscribers, I'll have said I've
Yeah.
been successful here.
Yeah.
I know. What's
We just
your,
need to have a salacious scandal that kind of gets us up there.
need a
We need to
roast.
invite Milo Yiannopoulos. Fucking say his name, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yes,
and
because I'm
out himself
I'm
as
sure,
like a
I'm sure
pedo.
he's easy to.
Hey, he doesn't do anything anymore. Get him on.
You do this, Kate Hopkins now. Go to your next question already, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, so Pixar, like, people should let go of these things. They're big companies, you know.
We're done. Next one.
Don't love a company like you love a person, Jesus Christ. Yeah, my next kind of thought was, well, we were going to do, like, when is animation appropriate? And I suppose we could do that, but let's use it as a jumping off topic, because who cares? Like, we could have this whole pretentious talk about, oh, you know, animation should be used this way, and it's like, who cares?
Mhm.
No. What was my next question? Let me just have a look at my sheet that has not that many notes on. That was really the most...
It's just one bit of paper with a dick drawn on it. That's what it is.
I kind of wanted to talk about Rick and Morty.
Go on.
We kind of shit on it last episode, but I kind of want to talk about, like, why do you think it was such a hit? Like, because it was just huge. It just did
I
something.
think because it came out at the right time. The way it sort of deconstructed sci-fi tropes and just broad and popular media
Yeah.
to such an extent, I kind of went, you're fucking stupid for liking this shit. We're the cool kids.
Yeah.
Felt pretty original at the time, and like made like me and you who we grew up on Doctor Who and shit like that, and they're gonna is it fucking Doctor Who stupid? And we were like, I guess it is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Rick and Morty's got a point. But then it was kind of a thing of then everyone watched it. And I don't even know how to describe its degradation in that sense.
It's funny.
It just was such a huge phenomenon amongst the internet, just everyone. When you're causing riots in fucking McDonald's because of a TV show, like a good TV show, it's
just
ridiculous.
Dan Harmon must look at what they created and go, oh my god, what have we done?
They must have been like, do you know how when the American pilots dropped the bomb in Hiroshima, and they looked out and they were like, what have we done?
That links to one of my films in my top 10, funnily enough. Sorry.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Or maybe it's
For
a
later
tease.
in the episode.
Or maybe it's a tease. Maybe this is going to get you
Ooh.
hyped.
No, I kind of disagree. I don't think it really has much to do with it deconstructing tropes.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit deeper.
Oh,
Not to say that, like, because, you know, but I kind of think...
you must have a very
Oh,
high IQ to
no,
understand Rick
yeah.
and Morty.
Well, I think you have to have a very high IQ to understand why Rick and Morty became pop. No, I'm joking. I honestly think it's because people are feeling really nihilistic at the moment. Nihilistic? I don't know.
It's nihilistic.
People pronounce it different. Nihilistic. People are feeling really nihilistic at the moment. And okay, this isn't that deep because I feel as if
that's pretty
but,
obvious. Yeah.
and the same with Bojack Horseman. I feel there's loads of shows that are kind of grappling with the idea of meaning. at the moment. Like The Leftovers is very much about, well, how do you find meaning after an unbelievable kind of out of this world tragedy happens. I'd almost say Breaking Bad to an extent. It's like, you know, how do you know, you kind of been trod on all your life, like, and you could argue anything, like the whole human experience is about striving for meaning. But what kind of Bojack Horseman and Rick and Morty do to differing degrees is basically say meaning doesn't matter. Like, fuck it. Fuck it all. Like, you know, and the way Rick and Morty does it is kind of the most kind of...
It's almost kind of like, I like the way it handles it, because it's not like...
Well, no, but I would say it's the most nihilist.
No, it's very nihilistic.
Nihilistic.
But I like the way it does it, though. It's kind of like... Well, it's probably going to be very super sane, but it's just have fun with your life. It's okay, just watch TV. That's you don't need anything grand in life.
Yeah.
Just the small thing of just watching TV and the adventures they go on. It's not like it's not the giant adventure. It's not the meaning of life. It's just the small interactions they have and just the fun things the characters do with each other.
Yeah.
Is what you should have fulfilled your life with and populate it with.
Yeah. And I hate that. I fucking hate that whole. I'm not a nihilist. Fucking hell, I can't say this word. I'm not a nihilist. I don't like nihilism. I don't, as a philosophy, I think it's dumb. But I can really appreciate the media that it's creating. It's kind of, I don't like using this word, but it is a little bit, in an actual sense, not in the fucking...
Is it a meta-narrative?
Jordan Peterson sense. It's quite postmodern. It's very much like, well, you know, because the way Rick and Morty presents this, it goes, well, there's infinite universes, so nothing you do can matter because, you know, there's an element of predestination to it. It's like, well, if there are infinite universes where things are happening, they kind of have to have an element of determinism to them. It's like, okay, here you go. In this universe, nothing you can do can really matter because there's infinite universes that are infinitely huge. Who gives a shit? It's almost like that's the conceit of the show. And then it goes, well, what do people do with that? And I would argue that all the characters in Rick and Morty are actually really horrible. Like, I really hate how like people idolise Rick. And
he's a dick. You're supposed to look at him.
But Morty is also an awful person, and Beth is an awful person, and what's her face? Summer is an awful person. You know. Jerry's an awful person. Everyone in the universe is an awful person because of this fact. Because nothing matters. It's like, well, they're not really awful people because there's no metric to consider anything awful because everything's terrible. Nothing matters. Well, no, nothing is terrible and everything is terrible because it's like, well, nothing matters. And it's like, which is the weird response that it gets. Because I feel as if Justin Roiland and Rick and Morty and Dan Harmon kind of know that. Maybe they don't articulate it, but they know that. That's why it's so good. It's because it grapples with that and basically throws it caution to him and just says, fuck it, there is no meaning. And that's the conceit. And they're not saying that that's true. They're feeding off a particular thing in the subculture at the moment where I would argue that in the last 40 years or something, there's kind of been this shift of like really self-reflection. Like, you know...
Especially I think now these days, with not to get too political, but the current climate of how everything is, it's sort of like this show wouldn't work if we were in a better time politically.
Yeah.
Especially when you have all this controversy surrounding Trump and Brexit and all that crap.
Yeah.
It fits so well. It's definitely a product of the time.
I think people
if things get better, if things get better in like 40 years' time, no one's gonna look back on Rick and Morty and be like, oh, this is an amazing
masterpiece.
Yeah, people become like, it's a bit fucking depressing, isn't it? What were they thinking at the time?
Well, my point on that is that I would argue what's happened to Western countries, particularly in the last kind of, and generally across the globe. I don't think it's just Western countries, but because of the way we can catalogue history now, you can't really look at history anymore with a glazed over look of like, you know, if you're an English person, like, oh, the English heritage, how great that was. It's like, well, actually, English people did awful things to minorities, went and colonised the world and did awful things with that.
Stole everything.
Well, you know, did terrible things in India. Same with America. It's like, well, slavery happened. And we kind of had this weird kind of really reflective, like, century, I'd almost say. And, like, and I would almost say, like, not to get into fucking really Jordan Peterson thing, but the failure of communism in the East really didn't help, because I would say that was already happening. This kind of like, oh well, is what we're doing really good? Kind of post-war, I would say. You could have the element of cynicism, but I think, especially with kind of the liberal types of people, there was this hope of this faraway land of a socialist utopia, and it's like there was hope there, and I feel as if this show particularly really jives with people that are like, everything is shit. And I don't agree with them. I'm like, well, actually, if you look at the statistics around the world, a lot of things are actually quite good. Like, okay, there are terrible things happening, but you can't ignore
I'm pretty
the good
indifferent
things.
towards most.
But I think just the way history's played out, you've got this kind of growing amount of people, and I think particularly on the politics doesn't really matter, but I do think it is particularly on the liberal side of things that are very much nothing matters. Like, you know, socialism's failed. You know, let's just grip onto this kind of nihilism because it's like, who cares? Nothing works. Everything's terrible.
Sorry.
You know, why bother confronting life's problems? Why bother giving life some bullshit meaning when there's just nothing there? Because everything's shit. And I can really appreciate that. I think it's a genius thing. I mean, you kind of get that with a bit less so with, like, this. I think the reason Rick and Morty was so prescient in a sense was that it was like, it really tapped into that for a lot of people. So what made people really feel it and really kind of, because
what do you say is the cause of it? Because you were not a fan of season 3. You very openly hate season 3. But what made you think? What caused its decline?
Well, this is the funny thing. I honestly think it's just a compounded Simpsons effect of that. What happened was
it can't satirise what it's part of.
Yeah, like with the way the internet is now, satire is a lot harder. Because
you can't just declare satire.
You can't be in the sidelines anymore. It's very difficult. Once you're popular, everyone knows you. There's no underground anymore. And this is a thing that I kind of get confused about. I don't think the media works well with this, because they'll see someone saying some awfully racist shit. It's like, well, yeah, that person was saying that already. They were just saying it in the bar, but now they've got Twitter and they can just be like, oh, yeah, you know what, those black people, they can just do what they like. Like, there's this added effect of like everyone sees everything all the time. But the problem with a show like Rick and Morty is it's trying to be edgy, it's trying to be out there, and it really isn't. I'd say it is in the first 2 seasons, and it's really kind of been like, oh, we're really going to push boundaries, but then everyone knows about it, and it's not pushing boundaries anymore, because pushing boundaries by definition is kind of exploring an unknown. But the second everyone knows what you're doing and knows the game you're playing, you're not doing that game anymore. You've become tired, and I think that's happened a lot with, like.
So how would you keep? Because also, say season 3 didn't happen, we'd obviously want more Rick and Morty after season 2. But how would you continue to keep pushing the boundary? Because like, if you look at South Park, I know people say the new episodes are not as good.
They really aren't.
But generally they have a pretty positive reaction, new South Park episodes. So how does South Park keep, doing, well, not like amazingly, but still having positive reviews and majority of people still like it? But say with you, Rick and Morty, you have the adverse reaction to it.
Well, South Park's just a completely different game because it plays with contemporary issues. So it's always got that mechanism of staying fresh because, you just talk about an issue that everyone cares about. It's like, oh, well, you can always find a funny slant on something that's happening. But the thing with Rick and Morty is it kind of dug its own grave because it kind of was like, here's everything we've got in the first 2 seasons. And other than like shifting its tone in a really inorganic way, I actually can't see a way it would get better.
Could just focus on characters more than anything else?
No, because then I think you lose the whole, well, nothing matters then. Because the show then cares about the characters. Like, one of the great things they did in like the first season is just show you a Rick and a Morty from the other universe just getting obliterated and then them switching into that universe. Basically saying, well, the emotions you had for all those characters in that other universe were completely inorganic. Because, okay, you're in this universe now, these new Ricks and Summers these new Summer, Beth and Jerry, they're your new parents now. Like, who cares? Just get over it. And the second you start really focusing in on the characters, it becomes false. It's like, well, you've gone against your own conceit. Your conceit is nothing matters, but you're just going, audience, you've got to care about these characters, they matter, which is also the problem of that kind of philosophy in general, is it doesn't go anywhere. It works for a very short amount of time. It's very fickle.
Could you also focus on sort of, to sort of make it seem like things can matter? I think...
But then I think you betray the first 2 seasons.
True, but do you remember at the start of season 3, when she finds Rick's portal out of his dead body, and she goes back into the Cronenberg universe, and Morty's like, this is what Rick does. He's not a good person. And you see the consequences of what he's done to the original family he was with, if it's his original family. Could you then have that like a season, not a whole season, but show parts of what he's done to people?
I suppose
and get more personal with it. Or maybe sort of write a scenario where, I don't know,
if you were insanely clever, I suppose you could almost turn it completely on its head and go, actually, like, we're going to make it all about meaning, and actually things do have meaning. But I feel as if that
could sort of restrict his travel, or maybe write in a way we kind of I don't know, universes were destroyed somehow, and now there's only like 5 or something. I know that would be very hard to do in a clever way with me just sort of shit talking now, but write it in a way where they're more restricted in the sense of what they can do.
No, because I think part of the magic was that they didn't restrict things. Like, you know, they introduced a character, Mr.
Poopy Butthole.
Mr. Poopy Butthole, because who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've never introduced him. The way they talk about him is as if he's been a family friend forever, and then it turns out he was actually real, and it's like, they don't care. But that works because it works on that whole kind of like nothing matters theme.
Mm-hmm.
You can't... The second you start making things mean stuff, you lose that theme, and I think that's really the pull of the show. Mm-hmm. And it was for the first 2 seasons, but the problem is I don't think that can last, because you have nothing more than that. It isn't, as much as fucking nihilistic people want to think, it isn't actually that deep. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh well, nothing matters. It's like, well, how much can you really do with that?
It's very limited.
Yeah. So I actually don't think the show... Yeah, I think the show should just stop. And also I want to be... Another thing about the compounding factor I was talking about, it wasn't just that it got really popular. This could get a bit political, because there was a particular political stamp that kind of came with this, was that they added a load of new writers to season 3.
I think that shows, like...
And it was just...
It's like in the Pickle Rick episode, the ending when he goes to the psychology office.
It was
and there's
so
that whole
awful.
sort of wanky segment from that psychologist. This was very evident they just got a new writer who probably studied psychology at some point, trying to broaden their...
Well, it felt like someone in the writing team was adding in a self-insert.
Yeah.
And Rick has become more like that, actually. Like, it feels like he's becoming more of just a Dan Harmon self-insert, and fucking like Summer is becoming this annoying voice of reason. It's like, oh, she was never that. She was an annoying, bratty bitch.
She was an anxiety-ridden teenager.
Yeah, so. It's like she was never... Well, that's the problem, is the longer a show goes, the more people expect some level of continuity, some level of... I honestly wish it had stopped at season 2. Because in retrospect, I would have gone, oh yeah, that's kind of genius. But now, because they have gone on, it's kind of like, actually, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Things need to know when to stop. But...
it's
making money.
And it's like The Simpsons as well.
Yeah.
Can't let it go. Would you like to see... Because I do like the ambiguity of Rick. Would you ever like to see, like, his past?
No.
Not like the war with...
No, again,
person, or...
the second you delve too deeply into things, I think it becomes the whole meaning thing.
Yeah.
And there's a way they could do that, though. Like, they could introduce it to kind of show Rick's a hypocrite, and not fold on that theme and that conceit and go, well, actually Rick personally does kind of have things that he holds close to him, and yeah, the whole meaning, like, oh, everything's bullshit, you know, is a little bit false on his part, without conceding that he's right, and completely obliterating theme. I think there's a way you could do it, like, and they did it a little bit with just introducing Mr. Birdman and Squanchy, what the fuck his name is? Yeah, Squanchy.
I think it was also with Unity, the woman who takes over plants and stuff. And
so
how he was depressed.
You can add depth in that way, because it's like, well, you know,
why is he acting like
humans,
this when if nothing means that?
If humans to a fault do have emotions, and like, the way I'd say kind of the more nihilistic view of it is like, well, actually they're a burden in a sense, and it's like, you know, they're just evolved things that don't really matter, and you can still add depth without completely removing that theme of meaninglessness.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do it too much, the show becomes false, because it's like, well, clearly the writers don't take the nothing has meaning thing seriously. Like, I really liked one of the theories, like it was a fan theory that every episode is in a different universe. And season 3 really reneged on that, because the episodes, there was too much continuity, like, you know, the thingy of Rick's coming back, and what are they called, the Council of Ricks.
Yeah, that's it,
yeah, like bringing that back, it was like you kind of get rid of this whole idea that, and the way they brought it back with kind of there being like the Rick we know is the super special Rick. It's like, yeah, that doesn't really jive with the whole everything's meaningless, because what makes something super special is you add a bloody
the most Ricky, you know, Ricky
you add a hierarchy of value which makes something that's kind of not really how nihilism works. You can't really do that. So the ways they're doing it are terrible. And yeah, but the problem is, I don't think a creator can really articulate that. Like, I don't think when a writer is writing something or a great artist is doing something, they're literally thinking these things. They're not going, oh yeah, I'm putting this in there because of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that's how art works. Like, art's so emotionally driven that the second you add loads of different creative voices, they don't get what the artist's doing, because the artist doesn't know what they're doing. But if you have someone doing it, it's like, well, at least the artist is doing something, like they're doing their own thing. And this is why people don't really like it when loads of creators come in. And I do think, and it became political because a lot of the writers were women, and some people were like, oh, we're fucking social justice warriors because they hired loads of women writers. And there's an element of truth to that, because it did sound like Dan Harmon was getting pushed to make the team a bit more diverse.
Mm-hmm.
But just adding a load of creators, regardless of their gender, to something that they haven't worked from the start is going to cause creative issues, because they don't get it in the same way the original creator gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine, and there are ways you can make that work if the...
It can just become like sort of Rick and Morty can become like a Doctor Who kind of used to be, in the sense of just every episode is just a fun adventure.
Well, yeah,
it can't just become fun adventures anymore. I think that's the thing. People expect such a high bar set in terms of, you know, the themes of a Rick and Morty episode and the characters and the darkness of it, that I think if you just went back to, they're just doing like, it has good comedy and there's creative aliens or whatever, people are not going to be as enthused about it.
No.
People demand...
Well, people demand a meaning.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. That's kind of an interesting thing that's happening, is that people actually demand meaning from this show.
It's paradoxical.
It's a paradox. It's kind of... Because, like, I don't think nihilists really exist, actually. Like, the people that are feeling nihilistic because of the political stuff, how the world has... One of the things that's happened in the last few years is the world has expanded, so no one's special anymore. Like, you know, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Like, that's stuff people are trying to contend with, and some people contend with that by going, well, nothing matters then. Mm-hmm. But actually, it's funny because a lot of the people that watch that and then espouse that verbally then want the penny to drop and there to be some meaning injected into Rick and Morty. Mm-hmm. But they want there more depth in the characters. They want, and some people argue, oh, well, you can add depth to characters without getting rid of the nihilism. It's like, well, actually, I kind of can see that, but you would have to add these kind of constraints. It's a fine line, and there are people that really want the penny to drop, and people that are really like, oh, when are we going to learn these things? It's like, well, isn't that kind of antithetical to kind of what you're espousing? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. You have to stop doing that after every time we have an interesting discussion. You can't just go, that's good.
But I think, and just sort of like, you know, pull the reins a little bit. We need to go. Let's go. You're such a fucking Jerry, Adam. Oh. Jesus. What is your next topic of discussion?
I was thinking of talking... The thing is, I'm not sure... You've not seen it, have you? Have you seen Over the Garden Wall?
No, but you talk about it a lot.
It's fantastic. Watch it.
Have a little...
There's no... it's kind of difficult
what do you want to talk about?
Well, I just wanted to say that it's like an interesting product, because it's a kids animated thing. It was just like this bizarre thing that just came into existence, and it was like, wow, that was incredible. Like, people love this thing. It's because it is brilliant, and it's just a weird oddity. You know, when things just come out of nowhere. It was if I were to tell you, well, Cartoon Network were just going to run I think it was 6 episodes, 6 episode, 10 minutes each special, you wouldn't really think much of that, would you?
No.
You'd be like, oh, that would be okay. And I think it's genuinely an animation masterpiece. It's so beautiful. It's this bizarre kind of animation. Like, the animation's pretty standard as far as kind of modern cartoons. Like, if I showed you a picture of it, it's like, well, it looks a bit like reminiscent of kind of the Adventure Time Steven Universe with character design. But the environments are beautiful. The use of colour. It's this. Well, it's autumnal because it was in what's it called? Halloween. It was aired at Halloween. So it's like this autumnal, really wonderful colours and stories about this kid who's kind of trying to get home with his little brother. They're out trick-or-treating and they kind of got lost in this crazy world where there's like talking vegetables and a bird that comes and saves them, and it's for some reason like really reminiscent of Dante's Inferno. Seriously.
What?
Yeah, no, like there's a really good YouTube video and I can't remember who made it. I feel bad because they're a small channel, so it's kind of, they need our shout out of 40 viewers.
Do you know what the sort of title is?
I can't remember it.
If I type into YouTube,
if you
Over the Garden Wall,
Dante's Inferno, yeah, it'll be the first one that comes up, yeah.
Because
and it's a really good analysis, and there's really striking similarities because, like, the end, there's this confrontation with this, basically the devil at the end. It's like, it's just wonderful, and it's like, wow, where did that come from? Because it's like, Cartoon Network hasn't really made great stuff in ages. They just rerun SpongeBob, and then this thing just came out of nowhere.
It was Nickelodeon.
Oh yeah,
Nickelodeon.
Yeah, but they play Cartoon Network plays stuff from Nickelodeon.
Do they?
Yeah, I think so. Like, because it's a channel, isn't it?
I know Cartoon Network is a lot more. It's a lot better than Nickelodeon is now.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon runs like the teeny sort of
Dan Schneider,
sitcom.
the Rough Rider.
Yeah, this is Dan Schneider shows everywhere.
You got fired, didn't he, for being an unbelievable creep? Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought that guy?
Pictures of him just unsettling.
They literally just like say it. Oh no. I don't really, because you've not seen it. It's hard. You can't really bounce off anything. But
I'll give it a watch and we'll come back to it.
Yeah, it's a really good show, and it's only 10-minute episodes. But it's oh no, I think it might be more than one. I think it might be more than 6.
No, Adam, you said it was 6 of 10.
It's an hour and 20. It's about film. I was almost going to put it on my top 10 animated films, but I was like, okay, I can't really do that because it's around the length of a film. I thought, yeah, I won't do that, but. It was really good. I would recommend it. It was one of my topics, but you've not seen it. Have you seen Moral Oral?
No, because you were talking to me about it, and he said the first 2 seasons aren't great, but it gets really good in the third season.
But the third season is so damn good. The third season is so brilliant that it's like it's worth the first 2 seasons are kind of like, not to do the whole. I don't necessarily like doing the whole number rating thing, but. Like, the first 2 seasons are like a 7 out of 10. It's like, oh, this is good. Third season is a 10 out of 10. It's fantastic.
Okay, I'll have a look. Is it on Netflix?
No, but it's easy to find. You can just find it just by typing in.
Do totally legitimately purposes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, don't do that. That's legal. That's naughty. Don't do that.
That's naughty.
This is a topic we kind of covered, but do you think the West will ever get over its ridiculous animated things have to be comedies? Anxiety.
I hope so. Oh, here's the thing, which I haven't told you about. I watched the first episode of Final Space.
Did you?
Yeah. Here's the thing about it. The comedy is the worst thing about that fucking show. Fuck Gary. He's one of the problems I have with the soft fusion armor is that I hate Fry and I hate Bender. They're annoying pricks. Gary is worse than both of them. Fuck him in the mouth. Okay, he's such a. I hate him.
I think it works.
I hate watching him. His voice actor is irritating. It's like watching Kato being like, "You're a fucking idiot." I was like,
Avocado.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. Okay, everything. Here's the thing: when the show opens, the opening shot of the ship's exploding. He's floating in space, and he's like, "You're not gonna live," and it's quite. The atmosphere is really nice. It's really beautifully set up. And I was like, "This can be." Good show. Then he opens his fucking stupid mouth. And I was like, oh no. And every time, like, I was really enjoying a lot of it. When he's not talking, the show is really good. As soon as I'm like, when the first episode, no one else is in it apart from him, really. And I want to kill myself. I watched the first like half second and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't.
The second one was genuinely actually had me like in tears of laughter. It was so funny.
No.
Maybe it gets funny at the end, but I can't.
Maybe I physically couldn't do it. I was like,
really?
I was like, David Tennant looks quite good as the villain, but I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm sorry.
I was fine with how kind of annoying he was because it worked with the setting because he'd been, on this I don't know what it's called.
He was like exiled for a while.
Yeah, he was exiled on his own with just annoying robots.
True, but
he basically got mad. So it's like I kind of could forgive his annoyingness.
He wasn't mentally ill enough to the point where I can empathise with him, and he wasn't endearing, and he was just annoying. And the comedy wasn't good enough to where I was like, I can just watch this for laughs. That's Futurama. The comedy's good enough to where I can sort of watch it for laughs. I can get over the fact that Fry's the worst person who's ever lived. But I can't do that with Final Space.
Yeah, I can appreciate that because I thought like a lot of people would be turned off by how annoying he is, but he gets less annoying throughout the series because they had a lot more other characters and they had kind of more context to kind of him and stuff. So he gets better throughout the series, but I can fully appreciate that. I thought the second episode was absolutely hairy. Did you get to the skin suit bit?
Probably not. I'd say no.
Oh, that was so funny.
But back to your question of will the West ever get over being a comedy? I literally think it's going to have to be one show. Like one groundbreaking show.
I will do it.
Adam will do it.
I'm joking. Fuck that.
And I feel like the day when... And I had this sort of like vision. I have a vision. But you know what I mean? Kind of like one day this like a film will come out or a show will just be so popular that it will just like... An animated movie could like is in contention for Best Picture at the Oscars, that kind of thing.
Yeah. That isn't Toy Story 3.
That was a comedy as well.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm just saying. Yeah.
And Beauty and the Beast was also Best Picture nomination as well. But between that kind of thing.
Remind me of a Top Gun.
Also, maybe like because a lot of anime, especially like Miyazaki movies, don't focus on comedy as the main thrust of it.
They aren't funny at all. Exactly. I don't think any of Miyazaki films are.
I haven't seen any, but I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
The day awards thing, when that becomes a bit more respected, I don't think maybe the impression I get is that Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli movies aren't well represented in like the Oscars or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, Spirited Away.
That won an Oscar, but consistently because they released a lot of movies, and a lot of them people would say are animation masterpieces.
But a lot of them only got. I think there's a little bit of a lot of them only kind of got released in the in America a lot later than they were actually made. So I feel as if there's a little bit like, well, do you give a film for the 2012 Oscars an Oscar that was made like 30 years ago? 2012 is completely wrong. It was early 2000s because what happened was the person that was running Disney in 2000 was very good friends with how Miyazaki was like, okay, I want to release these to the general audience in America. And this is the reason that the dubs are really quite good for most of the early and I think later Studio Ghibli films. They're really good. Like they're surprised, like because I don't generally watch dubbed ones just because the quality of voice acting is generally not nearly as good. It's distracting.
I feel I don't watch a lot of anime, but generally I feel Japanese actors are better at emoting than English actors.
Maybe it works because of the mouths are moving at the right speed and they get big Japanese actors because these are big films and they're not they don't fob like the dubbers off to who knows who like. They put a lot of effort in, whereas a lot of dubs that you listen to are fucking terrible. Like the one I was really frustrated because I really wanted to watch Akira and it's a fantastic film, but I had to watch the dub and the dub was okay.
It wasn't distracting. I thought a lot of the performances were sort of a little bit flat. Like they weren't bad. Like they were reading it okay, but there wasn't a lot of emoting going on in their voices.
Well, it's difficult because you kind of... Well, I don't know how dubbing works and how they do this, but I imagine...
How much does the dialogue change?
They would have to, like... because there are certain things you can say very quickly in one language that if you were going to really enunciate it correctly, you'd have to string it out, and with the way the mouths are moving and the scene's going, you kind of have to really shorten. So some of the dialogue seems weird, like it just comes across weirdly. It's like they're saying weird things because they don't really work. Whereas with subtitles, you get the whole performance, and if a line can kind of dwell for a while on the screen, and you just have to like quickly read it, and it works better with the subtitles.
But back to will it ever become, will it ever lose this sort of comedy thing? I think anime will have Miyazaki and Ghibli movies will have a big sort of role in that. But also I think because there's one called like Only Yesterday or something, like a Ghibli movie called Only Yesterday, something like that. And it was about it was relatively recent, I think, and it talked about a girl going through like puberty and stuff like that. And there's a whole bit in the original Japanese version where they discuss like periods and stuff. But because Disney is also responsible for distributing Ghibli movies, they're like, you're not fucking putting that on our movies.
No.
And so that also restrains things that can be talked about. If you're restraining things that can be talked about in an animated movie purely because it's animated, you're then reducing that respect given towards it.
Yeah.
And so maybe anime was the key. Like I'm not a big anime watcher.
Well, I watched
just things I've heard.
I watched Your Name recently as part of the 7 films.
I wanted to
prior to this.
Yeah.
And it's really good, and it is on my recommendations before I get into. It's not in my top 10, but it's really good. But that kind of had some comedic elements, but it wasn't a comedy.
It wasn't naturally comedic compared to
as a comedy. Yeah, it wasn't a comedy, and it was very good, and that was very well received in the West. So it's kind of getting that, and I think Rick and Morty, and as much as these are both comedy shows, Rick and Morty and Bojack Horseman are kind of the key because they deal with serious themes relatively seriously, and that is what people say is good about them. Like the thing about Bojack Horseman is like, oh, forget the comedy. Oh, it's this great thing about depression and Bojack's struggle. And I could sound like a hypocrite because I love Bojack Horseman. I was told, I said about La La Land about it being rich, its first world problems, but there's a difference between Bojack because Bojack recognises that about itself. There's a whole thing where Diane goes to Cordovia because, which is a war-torn country, to kind of show the folly of their feelings being. So, don't get back on me or no commenters.
Do you have anything else to add about will it ever be more West?
Yeah, but just I think those comedies that also take themselves seriously in that regard will pave the way. And I think what will happen is we'll get things that get less and less comedic to the point where people go, oh, okay, you can make something that's just not a comedy. Like as you said, like Final Space tries to be really funny, but the thing that really kept me going, like, oh, I really need to watch the second season, was the ending of the first season, which was not comedic at all. It was completely like, oh, through your left field. It's like, fucking hell, like that was depressing. It's like the thing that's keeping me watching has nothing to do with the comedy, and I think that's the same with Bojack Horseman. Like the comedy's not great in Bojack. There are some really great jokes.
Yeah,
but it's not what keeps me watching.
There's always like 2 or 3 which fall flat. But I've been rewatching Bojack Horseman.
Yeah.
I love it even more the second time around. I don't think I appreciated it.
I've watched it like 4 times.
Wow. I don't think I appreciated it as much than when I first watched it.
Well, what episode are you at?
What happened? So he started Secretariat. He's finally learnt he can accept, you can be sad, it's okay.
Yeah.
So he's starting to act well.
So season
2, episode 2, 3, something like that.
Oh, okay, so you've not really watched that much.
I didn't get much further with it the first time I watched it, okay?
Oh, wait till fucking season 4, Jesus.
You're going to jinx it now. I'm never going to watch it again, thank you.
No.
Thank you.
It was Time's Arrow as well. A few episodes back I said, I don't think the episode's name is Time's Arrow, but it is. Time's Arrow is a masterpiece. And it should have got an Emmy, not fucking Pickle Rick. But I think in the critical world, will take longer to get that, because Time's Arrow was fantastic, and it was not a comedy. Like, it's in a comedy show, but it was one of the most depressing episodes of any show I've seen. It was so...
How is that rated now?
I think it's like...
Is it like a middling sort of reviewed one?
No. But
highly
IMDb
rated?
is an aggregate of people scored, and it'll be. I mean, in the sense of getting rewarded at like Oscars and stuff.
I'll have a look. I'm curious now to see how people. Because if one of the more comedic episodes have a higher rating,
no, it got incredible. I think it'll be one of the highest rated episodes in the show.
Then after that, I'm gonna look at. Well, look, it's sort of like ratings compared to Pickle Rick. IMDb.
Rick and Morty is a particularly sycophantic fan base, so scores for episodes of TV shows aren't particularly representative on how people generally actually feel about them.
9.7 for Time's Arrow.
Yeah, because it's a masterpiece.
Piglet's got 9.2. There is
no way that should have that high score.
I agree,
but Sherlock's later seasons, most of those episodes have over 9.
And most people agree Sherlock is garbage.
Sherlock's garbage.
Even
after
Sherlock
season
fans
2.
say, like, Sherlock's is garbage after season 4.
Yeah.
Anything else on your list?
Well, actually, just on this point, one last thing is I think the whole. Because I think there's kind of been this explosion of nihilistic media recently, and it's particularly in comedy of like, oh, nothing matters. And I think you said there'll be a show that really pulls it. Kind of, I think there'll be an answer to nihilism, like a show that comes out and says, actually, there is stuff to think there's meaning about.
Yeah.
And I think there'll be a show that's serious and animated, because I think it'll almost, in the cultural sphere, the fucking collective consciousness will create this, is that there'll be this serious show that tackles meaning and says, actually, we're not nihilistic, because Bojack Horseman and Rick and Morty are both nihilistic, and I would say the whole nihilism kind of reverts through a lot of the stuff that's coming out at the moment, other than the superhero stuff, which I would say is kind of we've kind of got these two completely disparate things of kind of like, oh, good versus evil, and because people want to feel that's the truth and want to kind of cling on to that in a kind of, not to be talking down to people, but almost childish way, like they want to keep that, like, all good and evil matter, like, you know, there is this thing, there is something, it's like this weird splitting, like that's one thing, like the superhero thing's that, and then there's kind of this whole nihilistic media that's like nothing matters, morality is subjective, and there'll be something that kind of comes in the middle and is also treats things very seriously. And when I say seriously, I don't mean it has to be the most dour fucking depressing thing in the world, but it won't be a comedy, and I think it will be animated.
Do you think maybe it will go sort of, there'll be one dour thing comes out, people go like, this is too dour, there's something else will come back.
Yeah, maybe it'll like do a little thing.
Kind of like how like you have like, if you look at superhero movies, you have like, you know, moderately sort of dour, then you have like the Nolan, then you had the BVS, then it's like Marvel come back, no, we can have fun with it and also have good tone.
People seem to be accepting of the fact that animation can deal with serious things, and it's not the people that need convincing, because I think the people are completely convinced of that and will be completely happy to watch just a completely serious show that's animated, and they're clearly happy to do it with films at the moment, like, you know, Your Name isn't a comedy, and that was popular in the West. It did well. I know the West isn't creating them, but that's because the people with the money look at what's been good previously, and it takes a lot to really take that risk, and it just takes one person to take that risk, really. I think that's really all the kind of
we can start discussing
topics. You want to start talking about our top 10s?